The Undercity is a game of heroic adventure set beneath the city of Corvis in the Iron Kingdoms. Players take on the role of the Black River Irregulars, a band of mercenary heroes who have been hired by the short-handed City Watch to help investigate recent crimes and uncover a sinister conspiracy. It will be up to you to make sure the heroes get to the root of this new subterranean threat. Players work as a team, utilizing each hero's strengths to overcome villains and achieve their goals. The Undercity is best played as a full campaign, with each of the 7 chapters bringing the heroes ever closer to the source of the danger lurking under Corvis. As the heroes progress through the campaign, they gain valuable experience that allows them to expand their abilities and acquire new tools for tackling the next challenge. When setting up the game, each player chooses their hero. Each hero has a corresponding figure, character sheet, ability card deck, and feat deck. Feat cards represent a hero's luck and raw heroic potential. Each player shuffles and draws 3 cards from their feat deck and places them face up next to their character sheet. A hero can play a feat card to use one of the 2 options on it. A hero must also discard a feat card to use some of his abilities, such as Gardeck Stonebrow's feat Regeneration. Typically, a player can use as many feat cards during a round as they wish. Each player takes a number of wound tokens equal to their hero's vitality, as well as an alchemical restorative token. Wound tokens start the campaign with the red side up, and the alchemical restorative token starts with the full side up. The vitality of the Steamjack doorstop is tracked by rec tokens that start with the red side up. The campaign guide contains all the information players need to know about each of the chapters in the game's campaign, such as map setup and special gameplay rules. The Undercity is played in a series of rounds. At the beginning of each round, before any player takes a turn, one event card is drawn and resolved. Each event card determines the color priority for the round, either red or blue, and can produce a variety of effects that last the entire round. When a new event card is drawn at the beginning of the next round, discard the previous event card unless it was an environment card. Environment cards remain in play until a new environment card is drawn. The heroes have a limited amount of time to complete each chapter's objective. The event deck serves as a timer counting down that available time. If there are no cards in the event deck at the beginning of a round, the chapter immediately ends and the heroes lose. All characters in the Undercity, both heroes and villains, have a variety of stats and abilities. Stats and abilities for villains are on the villain stat cards, with the regular version of the villain on one side and the epic version on the other. Hero stats and abilities are listed on the character sheets. 7 stats define the basic qualities and capabilities of each character. These stats are used when determining the success or failure of a variety of actions and challenges. The higher the number, the better the stat. The initiative stat determines the order in which the heroes take their turns. The vitality stat determines a character's capacity for enduring the bruises, scrapes, and battered nerves that come with combat. A character's health is the number of wound tokens, currently red side up. The strength stat represents a character's physical prowess. The intellect stat represents a character's wits, powers of deduction, and speed of thought. The perception stat represents a character's attention to detail and awareness of the surroundings. The defense stat is a measure of how difficult it is to hit the character with an attack. The armor stat is a measure of how difficult it is to damage the character. Stats establish a character's fundamental attributes, but it's the character's abilities that determine specific talents and areas of expertise. Heroes begin the campaign with only the abilities listed on their character sheet. As they gain experience over the course of the campaign, they can acquire more abilities. Each character sheet also lists a second wind ability that can help the hero prevail when something goes wrong. Heroes take turns based on their initiative stats. The character with the highest initiative goes first, followed by the other characters in descending order. A player turn has 3 phases: the spawning phase, the activation phase, and the villain phase. At the beginning of his turn, the hero spawns a villain on the map. The numbered index tokens placed on the villain stat cards in the reserves determine which type of villain spawns in this phase. First, roll 1 die. A villain will spawn from the villain stat card corresponding to the number you rolled. Most villain types have both red and blue figures. If there are more of one color than the other, the villain of the more plentiful color spawns. If the number of red and blue figures are equal, check the color priority for the event card drawn for the round and spawn a villain of that color. Roll a second die to determine where the villain spawns on the map. Set the figure on the map space that has the passage marker with the number you rolled. Once a villain is spawned, the hero activates to move and perform actions. A figure can move between any 2 connected spaces. A space can have both open sides and walled sides. A side without a wall created by a map tile is an open side. If a tile on the map creates a wall along a side, it is a walled side. A space with a wall on every side is an obstruction space. 2 spaces are connected if they share an open side or an open corner, which is a corner that is not part of any wall. At the beginning of the activation phase, a player chooses one of 3 movement types. If hold is chosen, the character stays in the same space. If walk is chosen, the character can either stay in the same space or move 1 space. If charge is chosen, the character moves 1 or 2 spaces. A figure cannot move into a space that already has 7 figures in it. A large base figure is counted as 2 when determining the number of figures in a space. Therefore, Milo cannot enter the space next to him because there are already 7 figures in that space. If a character moves out of a space with an enemy in it, there is a chance he will be hit by the enemy as he is leaving. This is called a free strike and is resolved by making a hazard roll. To make a hazard roll, a player rolls 1 die. On a roll of 5 or 6, the character takes 1 damage. When a character leaves a space with multiple enemies, he makes a separate free strike hazard roll for each enemy. In addition to a move, each character can perform 1 action during its activation. The basic actions available to all heroes are attack, revive an incapacitated hero, and attempt a stat challenge. Some abilities or special rules can grant characters additional options beyond these basic actions. When a character performs an attack action, he makes 1 attack with each of his melee or ranged weapons. Each weapon has stats that determine how it is used. The weapon type icon indicates whether it is a melee weapon or a ranged weapon. The range is the maximum number of spaces the target of the attack can be from the attacker. The accuracy is a measure of the character's skill with the weapon. The power is a measure of the damage potential of the weapon. The first step of an attack is declaring which weapon is being used and the target of the attack. Weapons with a range of 0 can only target characters in the same space as the attacker. Both of Gardex Stonebrow's weapons have range 0, so he can only attack a target in his own space. When checking distance on the board to see if a target is in the range of a weapon, count the number of connected spaces along the most direct path between the attacker space and the target space. If Candace chooses to attack with her Magelock pistol, she can only target the thugs that are not in spaces with other heroes. This is because an attacker cannot choose a target in the same space as another friendly character with a ranged attack, unless the target is in the same space as the attacker. A weapon with an AoE designation such as Milo's explosive grenade is an area of effect attack. This allows him to target any space within range 2 regardless of the figures in it. The attack automatically hits every character in the space, no attack roll is needed. If Milo targets the space Doorstop is in with an explosive grenade, he will have to roll for damage against every figure in the space, including heroes. After the attacker has chosen a weapon and a target in the weapon's range, an attack roll is made. Standard rolls, such as attack rolls, use 2 6-sided dice. The accuracy of a weapon, along with any other modifiers from special rules, is added to the total of the roll to determine if the attack is successful. Some rules and abilities, such as aiming, allow a player to boost an attack roll. This adds 1 extra die to the roll. Only 1 die can be added to a roll by boosting, though additional dice can be added as a result of other abilities or circumstances. The attack hits if the total equals or exceeds the target's defense. If an attack hits, the attacker makes a damage roll against the target. A damage roll is 2d6 plus the power of the attack. If a character's move is a charge, the damage roll for his first melee attack after charging is boosted. Compare the damage roll result against the armor of the character hit. If the damage roll exceeds the target's armor by 4 or less, the target takes normal damage and flips 1 wound token to the black side. If the damage roll exceeds the target's armor by 5 or more, he takes super damage instead and flips 2 wound tokens to the black side. The party earns XP every time a hero damages a villain. For each 1 health the villain loses from an attack, add 1 XP to the treasury. When a character's health is reduced to 0, he becomes incapacitated. When a hero first becomes incapacitated, he is knocked down but remains on the map and continues to take turns. An incapacitated hero cannot move, perform actions, or play feat cards. During his activation phase, he can be placed in a connected space. During an incapacitated hero's spawning phase, return 2 black wound tokens to the box. When the last wound token is removed, the hero has passed out. A passed out hero's figure is removed from the map, and the character no longer takes turns. When Doorstop is incapacitated, it suffers the same effects as other heroes, except it cannot be placed and does not lose rec tokens during the spawning phase. When a villain becomes incapacitated, the figure is removed from the map and returned to the reserves. To revive an incapacitated hero, a battle-ready hero must be in the same space and must have a full alchemical restorative token. The battle-ready hero uses his action to flip his alchemical restorative token to the empty side. The incapacitated hero then flips all his remaining wound tokens to the red side and becomes battle-ready. After a hero is revived, he is still knocked down. A knockdown hero can discard a feat card to stand up during his turn. If Doorstop is incapacitated, it cannot be revived using an alchemical restorative token like a living hero, but Pog can use his feat Bodge ability to repair it just as he can when the Steamjack is battle-ready. Not all challenges the heroes face involve combat. Many mission objectives and side quest cards require heroes to pass stat challenges. Each challenge specifies the stat to use for the roll and a target number that must be met in order for the roll to succeed. For example, attempt a perception 10 challenge means a hero uses her perception stat for the challenge with a target number of 10. To attempt a stat challenge, roll 2d6 and add the stat being used. If the result of the roll is equal to or higher than the target number, the stat challenge succeeds. At the end of a hero's activation phase, he draws a new feat card and places it face up with his other feat cards. If you ever have more than 3 feat cards face up, discard feat cards until you have 3. After a player has activated his hero, he draws a villain action card. Each card specifies which villains activate based on color, proximity, or type. If multiple villain figures on the map fit the description of the villains to activate, choose which to activate based first on color priority and then on number priority. When using color priority, activate the villains whose color matches the color priority for the round. After determining which color a villain has priority, use number priority. The index tokens on the stat cards in the reserves determine the priority of each villain type. The villain whose stat card has the lower index token number activates first. When a villain activates, it follows the tactic icons on the bottom of its stat card in order from left to right. If a tactic is not a valid option, the villain attempts to follow the next one. The villain's activation ends after resolving the first valid tactic icon. There are 7 villain tactics icons. When a villain follows the melee attack tactic, he holds and attacks a target hero in his space with each of his melee weapons. When a villain follows the rush tactic, he moves up to 2 spaces and ends his movement in a target hero's space. After moving, the villain attacks the hero with each of his melee weapons. The damage roll for the first attack is boosted. When a villain follows the ranged attack tactic, he attacks the target hero with each of his ranged weapons if the hero is within range. If the target hero is out of range by only 1 space, the villain walks toward the target hero and attacks with each of his ranged weapons. When a villain follows the set shot tactic, he holds and attacks the target hero with aimed ranged attacks. When a villain follows the set shot or rush tactic, the color priority for the round determines the outcome. If the priority is red, the villain follows the set shot tactic. If the priority is blue, the villain follows the rush tactic. When a villain follows the pursue tactic, the villain moves toward the closest target. If the target hero is within 3 spaces, the villain walks. If not, the villain charges toward the target hero. When a villain follows the regroup tactic, it holds if a friendly character is in the villain's space. Otherwise, the villain charges toward the closest friendly character. Villains target the closest valid hero. If 2 or more targets are the same distance from the activating villain, use the target preference on the villain action card to determine the target. When a villain attacks a hero, the player to the target's left rolls dice for the attack. In the Undercity, the heroes win a chapter if they complete its objectives. However, there are a few ways in which the party might fail during the campaign. The party loses a chapter if all heroes are either incapacitated or passed out at the same time, if the heroes fail to achieve the chapter's objectives before time runs out as determined by the event card deck, or if a chapter ends with an incapacitated or passed out hero and no other hero has an alchemical restorative available to revive him. After winning a chapter, any hero that lost wound tokens due to incapacitation regains tokens until he has a number equal to his vitality stat. Regained tokens are placed with the black side up. Every battle-ready hero flips up to 3 black tokens to red. Doorstop flips up to 3 black rec tokens to red. Next, each hero with an empty alchemical restorative token has a chance to refill it. Roll a die. On a roll of 5 or 6, flip the token to the full side. A hero who is incapacitated or passed out at the end of a chapter must be revived in order for the party to continue the campaign. An incapacitated or passed out hero can be revived by another hero with an alchemical restorative. An incapacitated hero revived in this way begins the next chapter with full health. A passed out hero is revived in the same way, except he begins the next chapter with 2 of his tokens black side up. After heroes have been revived, any side quest card with a trade icon can be exchanged between heroes. After exchanging any tradable cards, divide the XP in the treasury as equally as possible among the heroes. If one or more heroes ends up with more XP than others, those with fewer receive bonus XP from the bank until all heroes have the same amount. After dividing up the treasury, each player can spend XP to purchase cards from his hero's ability deck. Some cards simply grant a character a certain advantage. Others require a player to discard a feat card in order to use the advantage on the ability card. To purchase a card, discard XP tokens equal to the cost. The new ability is part of your hero's character sheet for the rest of the campaign, and there is no limit to the number of ability cards a character can have. Characters are not required to spend XP between chapters, and leftover XP can be saved for later. Once you have spent XP, improving your hero's gear and abilities, you are ready to take on the next chapter in your fight against the deadly denizens under the city of Corvis. If you manage to survive all 7 chapters, you overcome the sinister plot and win the entire campaign. That is until another threat finds its way into the unforgiving Undercity.